Hello and welcome to P3M with Kailash Upadhyay, where we uncover the key lessons, strategies, real-world experiences in project, program, and portfolio management. Today, we have very exciting topic. This topic is lessons from mega program, their failure, successes, and turnarounds. And to join us for this discussion, I am honored to have Biren Parekh with me. Biren is globally recognized expert and with over 27 years of industry experience handling and leading complex and mega program across industries. Because of his experiences, his cognitive awareness, Biren has turned around many such mega failure program into successes. So let's welcome to Biren. Hi Biren, welcome to this podcast. So P3M with Kailash Upadhyay.
Thank you, Kailash, for giving me an opportunity to be part of this podcast. I'm really honored, and I'm sure that the kind of community work which you're doing by sharing the knowledge of several experts, I think it's going to definitely help a lot of professionals, senior professionals, CXOs, everyone. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, Viren, can you also tell me about your recent book? I have also heard that you have a new book launched, and I'm yet to grab a copy of that.
Sure, definitely. So here is my book that is Supercharge Your Project Management Skills.
Awesome.
So mainly this book is available on Flipkart and Amazon. Okay. And
Awesome.
the Kindle. This book particularly I have written to share my experiences. I'll say the mistakes which I have done during my professional career as a program manager, portfolio manager, and it's all listed over here. So whoever is actually in the field, I think they should read it. If they are able to pick up even 1 or 2 points from there, I'm sure definitely it will help several effort and budget and all this.
I'm sure that some of those key insight will also come into this podcast, Viren. So let's start with segment 1 of this podcast. In the segment 1, I want to introduce what is this mega program and why the mega program is unique. What are the challenging as compared to the smaller program we do in different industry, Viren?
Yeah, sure. So Kailash, before I start, I'll just like to make one disclaimer.
Yeah.
Is that whatever views I'm sharing over here, okay, those are my personal views, personal experience, okay, and those
Yeah.
not belong to my employer. Okay. Second is that whatever I'm telling is my experience, okay. It is not that now it is a like recommended practice or someone should implement it now without understanding the context.
Absolutely. It's great. Yeah.
I mean, what is that? What I'm saying is there is nothing confidential information which I'm sharing with on the podcast. Okay, so
Absolutely.
that, and I suggest that you keep this disclaimer on the podcast.
Absolutely.
So now coming to your question or the starting point, megastructure programs are those kind of programs or projects which has a huge impact or rather or have maybe a huge budget now which is going to influence a large number of people. So whether it's a huge infrastructure project running into multi-million dollar or multi-crore project, or maybe a project where it can have a very, I'll say, large impact on the either society or maybe a stakeholders kind of a thing. Okay, so those are the kind of a mega structured programs or mega programs now which normally has an impact on larger amount of now public or people.
Yeah, I think so. That's great. What I understand is this maybe they have the scale of this program is very large. There are a lot of interdependency, maybe ripple effect on different projects within this mega program. And you rightly said I think so. The impact is the great point you have that make the mega program unique to the other smaller program. Is you rightly said they not just impact one organization but they impact the entire economies or maybe communities or maybe the entire industries some point of time. Am I correct to say that, Viren?
Yes, correct. So maybe I'll just give you a couple of examples.
Great.
One example we know is about say bullet train, right? Bullet train project is a very ambitious project for India, which is being under construction, right? So there is a huge project where now full nation has their eyes on it and everyone wants it to succeed, right? And it is a huge, like I'll say, multi-billion dollar project, right? So that is one example. Second example is say, for example, UPI, right? So UPI which has been implemented, okay, that initially looks small, but the amount of lives lives it has touched, okay, for the Indian industry or Indian population is unbelievable that no one had envisaged when it was launched, right? And now it is also widely recognized and also adopted across the world, also in several countries, right? So
Absolutely.
two examples which I'll share, which has like mega programs or mega projects now, which has an impact to the huge economy, huge society, and a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I think so for the our international community, Biren, who don't know what is UPI, UPI is India's payment system, unified payment interface, where every transaction is becoming digital instead of using the physical currency or the plastic currency. Everything becoming a digital currency. And Biren, you rightly said this is a mega program where it not just touched upon the government organization itself, but it has changed the way people transact in India. So the impact, the point to distinguish between mega program and into the small program is their sheer impact. Now, we are having billions of transactions every year. I probably don't know the numbers, but from small village to metros, every individual today have forgot to carry his wallet to transact anywhere in any market. Everything is becomes digital. So that's a great example, and we will talk about this program further in detail. And your second example is also great. The bullet train. This will be the India's first bullet train initiative from Mumbai to Ahmedabad. That's the bullet train program we are talking about. And you rightly said the billions of dollar investment, the foreign entity investment into this bullet train program. These are the classic example of mega program, Biren. So thank you for sharing these great example, and I hope we'll able to talk more about these large program further, Biren. Right?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Yeah, so that's really, really great. I think so. Now we know what are the mega program, what are their impact, how they are unique to the other program. Viren. Let's move on to segment 2. We'll talk about why do mega program fail, and we'll also talk about common pitfall. So, would you like to tell us what are the most common pitfall you have observed, Viren, for these mega program failure? Because they often become big headline, but understanding the reason behind them can be enlightening for the community. So would you like to share some common pitfall for these mega program failure?
Sure. So, I mean, we all know that now programs or projects, normally they say that now 57% projects are either over the schedule or over the budget or over the scope. Okay. So that is normally a sort of a statistics from PMI Institute.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say that there are multiple reasons for this, but very common reason I see is that when programs are being launched, the stakeholders are not taken into confidence, or stakeholders' interests are not considered. Okay, so that is one of the reasons that I'll say that when programs are launched, mega programs are launched, something is being overlooked from some perspective. Particularly, I'll tell about infrastructure perspective. Okay,
Yeah.
infrastructure programs. Okay, and
Yeah.
what happens is that when you have not considered the stakeholders, when you have started doing something in, I'll say, authoritative manner, then when it progresses and when stakeholders starts getting impacted, there is a huge resistance. And when there are such a mega programs are there, then it obviously any issue, any resistance, anything related to that programs makes a headlines. Okay, across the newspaper, media, and everywhere. Okay, and
Yeah.
that is where the problem starts. That now, and as soon as basically one kind of a headline comes, and then now some of the vested interest also start getting into it, and then they start derailing the project. So stakeholders' interest is, I'll say, there is one of the very crucial thing that if it is not considered, stakeholders are not considered for the programs or projects, not taken into confidence, then quite possible that now these programs will fail or it will get delayed. Okay, because getting that confidence, it takes time. Second reason is that I'll say one of the is a underestimation. Okay, so the programs are estimated assuming that now as of today this will be my cost and this is how it's going to happen. But sometimes mega programs actually spans across multiple years, sometimes maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So when is across multiple years, and then people forget the kind of inflation impact it may have. Okay, or maybe a geographical impact that may have on the programs. Okay, and that is where sometimes has been started with whatever X number of budget, and when you have reached maybe a 50% the budget or 60% budget has been exhausted. Okay, and that is where basically for the remaining duration you don't have budget, and that is where seeking the budget, or maybe a program might get abandoned, or maybe getting a more budget takes time. So that's how the program gets delayed. So it's quite often that it also happens that now the amount of budget or whatever budget estimation is done not correctly. Okay, so that is second thing. And third is maybe quite often it is a governance, okay, which fails. Okay, so
Yeah.
if governance is not kept properly, or rather, now proper tracking is not done, proper due diligence is not done, proper matrices are not published time to time to the community, to the quite often the project goes out of hand. Okay, goes out of control, and you don't realize now. You if you try to take a stock at the end of the maybe at very just important milestone, like now if you have 4 or 5 milestone, you try to take a stroke at the time of those milestones only, and you realize that now you already got delayed. Okay, so it is quite important that now when there are mega programs, you have to continuously keep taking a stock of it, maybe have a governance around it, publish reports around it, and maybe highlight the issues. Now try to get the attention of the stakeholders or maybe sponsors, and try to see that now those programs are put back into the track, and now are controlled in a proper manner. So that is again say that it is more towards a risk planning also, because the risk planning and risk mitigation has to be budgeted right from the beginning of the project, which quite often doesn't happen, and that's where all the problem starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so those are the great reasons you have told, whether it's a stakeholder involvement throughout the program life cycle. And I agree with you, in such mega program, continuous stakeholder engagement could be a big challenge, and that challenge could lead to the failure of that mega program. And you also said your other point, maybe your governance consideration, where governance is kept on back burner, where people think they have done the effective planning and they over rely on the team, and they think that everything goes on an autopilot mode, where there is no clear governance structure was defined, where the management team themselves are doing governance rather than dedicated governance team whose job is not to do management but only to do governance. And governance is very important for management initiative success. For this mega program management initiative success, governance factor is very, very important. And Viren, I would also like to highlight some other reason which I have also experienced. One is cultural and behavioral misalignment. I have always believed, and I have always experienced in some of the such program I was involved, including one IT transformation program, where for a large multinational organization when I was involved, it failed because the leadership underestimated the cultural differences across the regional offices, and the regional team had resistance toward adapting to centralized system and non-compliance to these systems and processes, that could led to the failure of such large IT transformation program, which was very, very key program for that particular organization. So do you also believe that cultural and behavioral misalignment between the team, between the stakeholder, that could lead to such large mega program failure, Viren?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kailash, I just talked about the 3 reasons. I said top of it. Okay, but cultural sensitivity and cultural impact has to be considered thoroughly. And particularly, I'll say that I experienced that in some of my programs. Because see, normally my experience is on the banking kind of projects, mostly digital transformation of the banking systems. So we are working on the, I'll say, international clients, and most of the time what you have seen is that when you're doing this digital transformation, the people who are working on the legacy system, they are really scared. Okay, they feel that as soon as this transformation will be over, they'll be asked to leave. Okay, they'll be kicked out. So that is normally a kind of a cultural sensitivity or cultural fear is there, that as soon as these people will implement it and then this project will go live, then they will be asked to kick out. That is very much correct, and that is sometimes derails the project or delays the project, because they are not really willing to cooperate with you to see that the project goes live on time. So again, it will, I'll say, comes to the stakeholders. Okay, so if you are taking care of stakeholders, okay, doing the proper communication, saying that now after this project is over, you will not be left, you will not be kicked out, okay, but you will be put into some another role, try to maybe will upskill you and will give you some another job with the new systems, then that should be fine. But that is where now stakeholders' interest, if they are not considered, okay, or if communication is not done properly in timely manner, then definitely this can be a issue. And I fully agree with you.
I think that's a great point. You rightly said, sometimes the leadership team is not able to communicate the safety of these resources, these human resources and all. I think so, yeah, that those cultural readiness is very important, where the leadership have to play very important role. And I also have experience wherein, this political and geopolitical factor, in such large program. And I can also give you an example. See, in Mumbai, India, this metro railway, the program, and we saw lot of political influence where changing political leadership. One government changed, next government came. So, do you agree that political and geopolitical factor were changing leadership, or maybe regulatory hurdle and geopolitical tension, they all are a very, very important reason also, that needs to be considered to avoid such program failure?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when there are mega programs, the political influence and political interference has to be budgeted or has to be mitigated, okay, as a risk, I mean, which can come up anytime, and is absolutely required, and I fully agree with you. Yes.
Great, great, great. And there are some more reasons which I have personally experienced whenever I have been involved into. Sometimes, the cognitive overload and decision fatigue. Decision fatigue means there are, in such large scale mega program, there have so many decisions have to be taken concurrently, and there is a regular decision making process. It is not that we have to take a decision now and maybe the next decision will come after 1 year. Sometimes, the decision making fatigue itself will lead to the failure of the larger program, because people are maybe not ready. They were never involved in such kind of mega program, and they didn't knew that so many decision, and sometimes the decision are very ad hoc decision. And even the cognitive overload, what I'm trying to tell you is the entire process of gaining the knowledge about the mega program, even that itself is very a very cumbersome kind of things and all. But do you agree, Viren, that cognitive overload and decision making fatigue, these could be some other reason for such mega program failure as well?
Yeah, you're right actually. See, what I also sometimes notice is that now this is sometimes problem with the leadership also. Okay, so what happens is that leadership is sometimes not very clearly communicating now as per the SC chart, that now who is responsible for what. And when mega programs, there are several entities are there, and they feel that someone else will take decision. Okay, so that is again one part which I have noticed quite often in large programs, particularly in my sector, and that is where problem happens, that someone will take decision and I don't want to take decision, because if I take a decision, if there is some mistake which happens, then I'll be responsible, right? So people sometimes try to avoid taking decisions. Sometimes they feel that, okay, I've taken too many decisions and I don't know whether I had the authority to take decision or not. But now those kind of communication gaps actually now sometimes results into this kind of a decision fatigue, or maybe a problem in moving forward the project. Okay, so that is definitely an issue which I've noticed.
And how about within the leadership ego? Because I have also experienced leadership ego is another reason of such mega program failure. Because sometimes, the leadership thinks what they will decide, the bottom up communication, they are not willing to accept, and they feel that they are at the maybe sponsoring role, they may be at the decision making role, and that ego and were not involving. That could also be a common reason. Viren, do you think so?
Yeah, quite often it happens that they call it, I think word is called hippo, right? I mean, if I'm not mistaken. Okay,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
so what happens is that if leader is a sort of a charismatic, okay, and
yeah,
then when he says something in the boardroom or something in the room, okay, everybody just accepts his decision because he is charismatic, or whether because of whatever fear of him taking some grudge forward. So sometimes, quite often, it happens that now leader sometimes say something, and he might not be actually on the ground also at times, but he will take some decision and he will just try to see in more, I'll say, dictatorship mode also, that now,
yeah,
okay, I've taken this decision, you have to now implement this kind of a thing, and because of whatever, he's good at communicating and he's good at talking, and then he will try to influence the people, okay, without actually having maybe facts at the ground level or at the in the practical life. So that
yeah,
also
yeah.
observed quite often. Yeah, I mean, so that's where ego comes also in picture, that now if I have told you I have so many experience, then you have to follow it, I have that authority. So that also comes into picture at times, and we have noticed that in many projects, infrastructure projects, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think so, Viren, this is a great discussion in this segment where we spoke about some of the common pitfalls, some of the common reasons or factor that could lead to such mega program failure. Now that we have explore all of these program failure reasons, let's shift gear, and in segment 3 we'll talk about the success stories. So I want to ask you, what are the key factors that lead to mega program success?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So I talk more from my experience. As you
Great.
know,
Yeah.
I've been part of a digital transformation in the global banks,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've been part of one of such sort of a red projects, okay, where I was called midway now to revive the project.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I noticed during that is that there were some 22 points which bank's management had written to our management saying
Yeah.
that this be addressed. So those are related to different things. But what I did was that first of all, I told them that okay, you list down the priorities of your issues. Okay, so I told them list down priorities, 3 priorities for today, like 3 week, this week particularly, and then I started taking the problems with the help of team for those 3 issues. Okay, so as and when those 3 issues were getting done, I'll tell them okay, now it's done. You tell me now next what are 3 next priorities. So that is how I tried. First of all, try to address those issues. Second is that that was more technical perspective, but then again I asked that what is from the strategic perspective, what are the things which you want to do maybe down the line, 2 months, 3 months down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that I took the inputs and I worked with my management and tried to work out the plan which will help them maybe in next whatever quarter or 2 quarters. Okay, so that was strategically that I did. That was
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
thing. Second thing, basically identifying the priorities is very important when there are some red programs.
Yeah.
Second
Yeah.
is that you have to ensure that now communication flows in seamless manner to all the stakeholders.
That's great.
Is that stakeholders, they don't realize, they don't know, they are not aware, they have not checked mails or they have not checked some whatever now has come in the as a part of a physical report, etc. So what I did was that I talked to each stakeholders, okay, and try to see that now status report in the way which those customers or the stakeholders wanted gets published. So project manager require maybe a different kind of a status report, or a sponsor may require different kind of a status report. We ground level people want to understand at a different level, and obviously our management wants to understand from the different perspective, right? So
Yes. Yes. Yes.
you see that now the proper status report goes to each stakeholders in the way they are able to understand or they are able to read it. Okay, so that is very important that now someone needs it in an email, someone needs it in the say WhatsApp, someone needs it in the physical copy, or someone needs it in the SMS format kind of a thing. Okay, so it's very important that now you figure it out what and how you have to communicate and ensure that the communication flows continuously. Okay, so quite often people what they do when there are good news, then they will communicate. When there are bad news, they will not communicate. Okay, so
Right.
there's a
Right.
very standard practice in the all industry. Nah, they don't break the bad news. I'll say
Yeah.
that it is other way. You should first of all break the bad news. Okay, I know that there will be problem with you, but you first give the bad news. Okay, that this is a problem which is happening. But at the same time, you have to communicate that now. See, this is a problem which is happening. I am already in touch with the experts. Okay, and I'm expecting that now this is the immediate workaround which is there, and I'm trying to find out the permanent solution, and I'll update you in whatever time frame, okay, which it might be maybe an hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, 1 day, 2 day, whatever time, depending on the kind of a project in the industry. You have to communicate that now that I'm going to come back to you, but there is a problem which is there, which I want you to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a total blocker or showstopper, then that's a different thing. You tell them, okay, there's a blocker, and we have to now immediately convene SOS kind of a thing and try to address it. But communication is very important now, and in fact, many projects fail just because of lack of communication or the poor communication. Okay, so that is the second thing which you have to do. And
Yeah.
third is that I'll say that now you have to take care of your employees, because sometimes what happens is that now if your team, okay, is burnt out, okay, then they will not do things which you feel is so simple, so straightforward. Okay. So the third thing which I normally do is that first of all, quite often when there is a fire, now people or project manager or program manager, they just ask team to work now ruthlessly. Okay, that you come on Saturdays, Sundays, now holidays, everything, and in order to please the management or maybe to customer, they just keep doing this for multiple weeks. Okay, see, in the provisional program, once a while, I mean, working on the weekends or holidays is fine, but it
Yeah.
should not be planned into the program. Okay, it has to be stopped immediately. So either you need to rebaseline the project, or you need to add more resource. But you can't just say that now people to work 15 hours, 16 hours, and then you say that now quality is not good, right? So that is third thing which you have to do is that you understand your effort, right, to align it. Now ensure the team is taken into confidence and accordingly only convey the timeline. Don't convey the timeline unilaterally, okay? Because customer is asking, You don't need to convey the timeline just saying that now, okay, fine, I'll do it. Okay, so that is one thing which was happening in that particular project, whereby now people were working and then there was no productivity. Okay, people will not be efficient or now will not be productive, right? So
Yes.
even people working 6 hours might be productive, right?
Yes.
People or team has to understand, okay, you don't have to convey that now you have to work 12 hours or 14 hours today. Right? That should come from the team. When that happens now, then you are on the top of the project or program. Okay, and that is what we did actually. And as of today also, when I have a team, they will work on their own. My strategy has been is that now I take a team full into confidence, and I just tell them that there is a kind of a timelines or milestone which we need to meet. Okay, and
Yeah.
then it is up to team to work on that. Okay, whether they work 6 hours or work 10 hours or maybe work 15 hours, I don't try to monitor them now from that perspective. I just check whether the milestones are met or not. And I have noticed multiple times. I have noticed that now quite often when there is a deadline and when because team is not able to meet the deadline, they have been working overnight without my knowledge. Okay, and when next day I come to the office, they are still in the office. They are still working, trying to deliver it. Okay, and that happens because they themselves know that now what mistake they have done or what needs to be done, right? And that
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
environment should be there, culture should be there. That now you don't have to tell people. People should be driven, self-driven, understand, and now work towards. So these are some of the 2-3 points which I'll say that now which one should do to ensure that now programs are successful and now they are turned around.
I think so. Great points, Viren. Some of these points which you have mentioned, they can definitely be a key success factor for such mega program. Also, Viren, this psychological safety in leadership and team is very, very important. See, I have always experienced that program that foster an environment where team can openly raise concern, where they can propose ideas, and where they can admit mistakes tends to be more resilient team. And I think so this is what you are trying to say also. I think so those psychological safety in this leadership and the the execution team is very, very important factor, right, Viren?
Yeah, perfectly. I mean, you have very well said. And
Yeah.
so team will be confident that now if they tell us that there is a delay or there is a mistake which they have done, then there should not be backlash or no kind of a things. If those kind of things are there, then people will be more than happy to put best of their effort.
Exactly, exactly. And also, Viren, how about redundancy planning? Designing for anti-fragility. I have always believed that sometimes we do risk mitigation, but we don't do redundancy planning. We don't create a fallback plan or maybe contingency plan or even fallback even for contingency plan. I know this will be very costly and maybe time taking, but for mega program, don't you think that redundancy planning, just risk response plan is not enough? I think so we need to have what PMI defined contingency plan is called fallback plan or redundancy plan. Do you agree that this anti fragility kind of planning or redundancy planning is very important in and they could lead to success in mega program, Viren?
Absolutely, I will say that. I fully agree with you, Kailash, and that is very much required now to have a fallback plan in case someone leaves, some resource is not available because of whatever now issues. So those needs to be planned time to time. And again, another issue which I have noticed sometimes is that now when there are such programs which are running, particularly whether it's a large or small, whatever, medium size, whatever, put down the blanket statement saying that nobody will go on leave, okay, because these programs are there. So that is not the way program will run, right? So you should be aware upfront that now when person might be going on leave and try to see that now there is a backup which is created properly in time so that now in case if someone is not available, then someone is there to take care of it. Okay, so that is a backup planning. It might not be now that you have full-fledged kind of a same resource available, but at least you have to identify that now someone can pitch in if someone is not available, and that is absolutely must to have in any kind of a programs or projects.
Yeah, thank you, Viren. And how about organizational memory retention? I always believe that, in this large program, there is high turnover, Viren, and there is a leadership changes. Do you agree that this mega program, since they span maybe a decade, maybe 4 year, 5 year, and there is very high turnover. Just said about the employee or the execution team related turnover, but even leadership changes is not uncommon in mega program. Because of the leadership changes, what happening is we are not retaining the valuable insight that one leader has properly to the other leader. And so organizational memory retention is a big reason for failure, and the organization who will able to retain these insight and able to transition the knowledge, they will be more successful mega program.
Yes, very much. So I think that's where one of the aspects of the project management comes into picture.
Yeah.
Things. One is that now you need to have continuous documentation during the project or program. Okay, so that is one thing, and that is where the PMO comes into picture. That any action which happens in either way has to be clearly documented, has to be tracked, and has to be understood by PMO team. Okay, so that is one thing which is very much required and has to be taken care of. Okay, many companies, they try to avoid PMO just because now it might be overhead. That's what they feel.
Exactly.
Yeah. And second is that now we talk about during execution, but even once execution is over, okay, or project is over, then lessons learned has to be clearly documented. Okay. And that is a very clear task and ask now from the management perspective, that you tell me, okay, that if you execute this project second time, okay, then how quickly you can do it or how efficiently you can do it. So those kind of things, I'm just talking at very high level. But now all these lessons learned has to be documented, brainstormed and documented, and has to be published also to the stakeholders. Okay, not only just not documented and kept it, right? Whatever similar programs are running, whoever is in the same practice, okay, you publish those learnings that, okay, these are the findings now during this program execution, and those needs to be taken care of when you are doing or whatever your rest of your programs or projects. Okay, so that is one thing. So they call it knowledge database, right? So that is very much required and has to be there. Many companies, even though if they have it, okay, it will be just scattered. Okay, it will not be in the centralized place, which many will not also be aware. So as soon as the leadership goes, or I mean the LOB head goes or business head goes, gone. I mean, so and many companies don't realize also. No, they don't try to retain people, or they don't understand the importance of it, and again they go into the same vicious cycle when they execute the project, similar project in the same industry somewhere else. They will again go through the same delays and same issues, right? And we know, we have seen several such instances in the public domain. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Viren, see, what I have also seen in large mega program, often the budgeting is only done for the development of the program, but the operational budget. Because what I have also learned in the program management standard, that when we are doing mega program, we don't have to budget the program development cost. Whether, let's say, the metro railway example which you gave, mega program, it's not just the cost of developing the metro railway, and once the metro railway develop and hand over, but many a time the operational budget was not planned ahead. And the PMI standards also saying in the program management standard also that operational budget, the total cost of ownership, not just the development cost of the mega program, but the operational cost have to be planned. And the program which calculate the overall life cycle budgeting, those are the program can be more successful, because it's not the development. Sometimes, the development is not a problem, but the operations, where there we see a lot of the problem, where maybe housekeeping, maybe the maintenance, and that could lead to dissatisfaction and the early closure of that particular, or maybe failing of that particular initiative. Correct me if I'm wrong, Biren.
Yes, absolutely. I think there is also notice that now sometimes people don't budget only, okay, or they budget, I'll say, a slim or thin manner. Okay, they don't realize the amount of effort which might be required. And see, another mistake which I've noticed is that sometimes some companies, okay, about the program or project, to those companies who are quoting less from the project execution perspective.
Yes.
But they don't realize that now there is maybe a high cost which may be required post execution, that is in the support mode or maybe in the BAU mode. Okay, and that is sometimes underestimated, and that's where the company tries to make money also during those phase. Okay, that is support phase. So that is again another thing which some organization, when they float a RFP or when they float a tender, now they just go by only project execution cost, and they don't go by the project maintenance cost. And
exactly.
Yeah, so that sometimes is a very big mistake from the customer perspective, and has to be really thought through when you are actually floating the project, adopting any certain technology, that what will be my maintenance cost and whether it will inflate compared to current or not. And so those kind of decision also has to be taken at the time of project planning, okay, or maybe at the time of deciding the technology. because that might have a huge impact down the line.
No, that's absolutely true. It have to be done during the planning. When we are planning or even when we are developing the entire business case, the business case for such mega program must justify the operational cost. Yeah, I think so, Viren, that's a great discussion in segment 3 where we spoke about what are the some of the factors that we can consider for mega program success. And now let's move on to the fourth segment of this podcast where we will talking about turning around failing mega program. So Viren, would you like to tell us from your experience when you saw some of these mega program where you have been involved, when you saw they are off track, how did you bring them back to the expectations, to the baseline? How did you turn around these failing mega program, Viren?
Sure. So see, there are multiple ways by which you can turn around the program. Okay. So very first thing which I normally do when there is some kind of a challenge or when I'm being called midway in any of the project or program.
Yeah, yeah.
First thing which I do is that I first of all read the contract. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Contract I should read, SOW, statement of work or contract, whatever you to call it. I read it end to end, okay, and try to understand what exactly is the scope, whose responsibility is what, and what all has been there. Okay, so first of all, very first thing which I do is that.
Yeah.
Second, is that once I understood the contract, then I try to figure out what is the kind of a burning issues.
Yes.
And I try to map burning issues to, I'll say, to some extent to the contract. Figure it out, first of all, whether those are actually part of the project or supposedly part of a project or not. Okay, sometimes what happens is that customer keeps saying that, okay, I need this also. But when you open the contract, you can figure it out that those were not part of the scope at all.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And then customer keeps escalating or maybe shouting saying that no, program is not, or rather product or service is not up to the mark. But not part of the scope only. So that is second thing which I do. Try to map, try to figure it out. Third, as I also mentioned, is that figure it out what kind of communication has gone in the past. Okay, whether those communication has been incorrect or whether they did not give the true picture. I try to fix those things. So that is third thing which I do. Fourth, as I said, once I figure it out all these things, then I try to see that what are the priorities. Okay, now I have the very clear picture that, okay, what are the things which are remaining to be done or to be done? What are the kind of a burning issues out of that? What are the priority which I try to figure out, as I told earlier, right? I try to figure out what our team and the stakeholders and what are the priorities and try to tackle those things. Okay. And fifth is that now sometimes you need a support from the management. Okay.
Yes.
So you try to seek a support wherever required. Okay? You may not have the expertise. You may need some external experts. See, sometimes management also says that I don't have expert.
Yeah.
You get the expert from outside also, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
It might be a cost, but still you need to get those things, right? You can't just raise the hands. Unless you are just going to wash your hands and ready to get sued or whatever.
Yes.
So those are the 4-5 steps which I try to do. And obviously I try to also have a different perspective from the team also. I try to understand from team also, because sometimes customers themselves are wrong, okay, or they are demanding something very illogical, okay. So I understand from the team also that what are the kind of things, what are the behavioral issues, maybe if any from the customer side, even maybe from the team side. And then I try to put some action plan into the place, and I just give the plan to the customer that, okay, these are the things I'm going to do in next 1 week, next 1 month or 2 weeks, whatever, I mean, now 1 quarter. So whatever is there, I try to put it down and then try to appraise the customer at that point of time that, okay, this is the status, this is what I committed, and this is the status as of, right? So these are the way I will say some of the steps which I try to follow for any projects or programs and try to
turn around them. Absolutely. I think so. Those are the great point. And I also have experienced sometimes reverse engineering is very, very important. Work backward from success state and identifying missing enabler. When we know that, okay, this is how success will look like, and then we will know what could be the missing enabler, then we can easily turn around. Is that correct, Viren? Reverse engineering can be sometime maybe a valuable to turn around these mega program which are failing.
Yeah, to some extent I agree, but I feel that first of all you need to be on ground to understand what are the kind of problems are there, and then maybe try to reverse engineer, try to reverse stitch the expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also talk about something about temporary. See, there is another approach which I have seen in some of the organization when I was part of, there's something they were implementing dark horse leadership rotation. Dark horse leadership rotation was, wherein where, temporary external leadership, to see challenges in legacy leadership or legacy thinking. Sometimes, when we consider that if we are working into a software domain and doing big, large transformation program, or even you said UPI program, where the digital, digital finance, even that, if we bring sometime, leadership, of course, this not be a permanent, but I've seen this happening where temporary leadership, which come from, let's say, a consumer tech, a CEO comes and how he will analyze the data and may come up with some turnaround strategy. Have you seen something this, Viren, or do you think this kind of approach may in certain environment may also work there, Viren?
Yeah, some extent I agree with you. But what I notice in the same time is that now bringing someone from a different domain, I think backfired. Okay, because he might be thinking in different line, may not have a different. May have a different understanding, may not be aligned with what is expected in this kind of a domain or this kind of industry or this kind of a project, and then he might be totally, I'll say, to some extent, out of tune. I'll say that. Okay, but yeah, in some cases, definitely it will work because now bringing totally different viewpoint or perspective, it may help. So that's a yeah, makes
Great,
sense.
great. Yeah. No, I have seen that. And you rightly said, you rightly pointed out it sometimes it may, people may not like and maybe some ideas maybe, but I have seen in some environment, I've seen that, at least some fresh way or maybe how they handle certain situation that has also worked in turning around these mega program failure. And another thing is, creating this kind of economic war room, just like, we have military precision when in the military we do a lot of, we have war room kind of thing. So can we also do some war room kind of concept, especially when we already know these programs are failing, and this war room concept can we bring around to save this program?
Yeah. No. So that we have been already doing it. So some of the red programs which are there, okay, and when there is a huge pressure, so definitely having a war room helps. Okay, so and particularly I say that even in the day-to-day operations also, if there are any kind of a severity one issues are there, then those are actually now war room is open and all the stakeholders are pulling over there, and there is a, I'll say, real-time update, right? So real-time progress, real-time action is there, and that helps actually to address the issues or the project now from when it is in red to maybe bring it back to a normal one. Yes.
Yeah. And I remember you spoke about something called bottom up approach. And I also believe sometimes leveraging the bottom up innovation instead of relying only on top down problem solving, right, Viren?
Yeah, right, correct. So see, what happens is that the team who is there on the ground, okay, they will know lot many things compared to obviously managers or management, right? And sometimes they themselves have the solution. And because we are trying to now try to innovate solution, but solution is already there with the team. So it's better that you talk to the team, find out the problem, you ask them candidly, okay, how can we solve this? Okay, and you just see, they'll be very candid, they will openly tell you, that now, okay, these are the things can be implemented or resolved, or these are the workaround now which have been should be implemented. And see, sometimes what happens is that now people at the bottom, now they will not, if they say, now the customer may not listen.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
So you maybe collect the input, okay, and maybe justify it or put it in a rational manner, okay, then customer will understand. Because sometimes the ground level team, they don't know how to communicate, right? So bottoms up is very important, and I try to do that way only, try to get inputs from them and try to put it down in the way customer understands. Or maybe talk in their language, basically.
Absolutely. And at least in terms of those tactical failure regions where I think so these are the people are subject matter experts who may not think strategically but tactically some alternate way of working that could be that can turn around at least the tactical region of failure of this mega program, right, Virenji?
Correct, right. So basically to douse the fire in a very short term. Yeah, but at least you'll be able to move forward, because sometimes what happens is that there are so much resistance, so much fire. Now the customer is like hell bent to maybe throw you out. Okay. So at least
Yeah.
you douse the fire, at least show him the progress, okay, him or her the progress, and then at least things will start moving. Then you have a time or now breathing space now to address the problems on the strategic manner, right? So that is very much it.
Yeah. I think so. This is another great segment, where we spoke about and some actionable strategies to turn around the failing mega program. And in the last segment, maybe some key takeaway for program manager and project manager who are involved in this mega initiative of their organization. So to close this conversation, Viren, what are your top takeaways from navigating this mega program you have had when you were involved in this program, Viren?
Yes. See, very basic thing is that whenever there are some problems, so people try to sometimes they try to seek opinion of too many people. Okay, and then they get confused. Okay, so that is one thing which I have noticed. So what is that a program manager, project manager needs to think a little bit out of box. Okay, and maybe do it with a cool head. Okay, so and try to see that what can be done. Okay, that is one thing which I have noticed is that now people just in the what do you say in the heat of the moment. Okay, now they just start doing something. So just give it time to cool down, try to understand, try to think, and maybe think out of box. Okay, that is one thing which I normally do, and not the traditional way, but try to do some unconventional way whereby you can get the solution. And I told you, now try to first of all get the team on your side, okay, because that is most important thing. Team has to be with you, then only you'll be able to, I'll say, solve the problem, because you are nothing without team, right? I mean, team is the one who actually is there with you. Behind. And or as I said, I mean, just go through contract, try to figure out what is there in the scope, what is not there in scope, negotiate. Okay, that is very important thing, because when
Yes.
there is a fire, you need to negotiate with the customer. Okay, customer at any point of time, customer wants everything as of yesterday. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I wanted yesterday only, but
Yeah.
you have to negotiate hard. You try to say that, okay, what are your priorities? Where is a value? Okay, where is the business value is there? I'll try to deliver those things immediately, and then maybe let's do it in phase wise. Okay, quite often it also happens that now customer is demanding everything as of today, but they themselves are not ready to now adopt those things, okay, or accept those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we deliver something, but they're not ready to do whatever testing, or they're not ready to do a quality control or whatever now for
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to also ask the customer also the counter questions that now once I give you, what you will do with it, right? So those kind of things also has to be now explored. I mean, now because when there is a fire, people feel that no, I can't ask anything to a customer. Okay,
Yes.
that's kind of a fear which is there. So that has to, you have to come out of that. Now you can also question customer. You can also question their strategy. You can also question how whether their infrastructure is ready or not for the whatever moving forward. Whether the training is done, whether users are ready or not. So all those things are, several things are there. But now normally when there is fire, people are just now feeling that okay, it is my fault and I'm just now getting cornered, and so they try to just save themselves. But you have to adapt this different strategy also.
Those are the great takeaway, especially you rightly said negotiation, and do not work under heat of the moment or lot of pressure. Maybe be cool headed or be calm, and do not listen to thousand of ideas. Sometimes think out of the box, sometimes believe in your own intuition or in your own gut feelings that I will be taking the right, because you have invested so much into this program, maybe in last 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, in entire life cycle, the duration of that particular program. Sometimes your own judgment, your own cognitive awareness, that may be far better than hearing lot of random thoughts from different stakeholder who may never want you to be successful, Raj, but still they will give you advice. I think so. Those are great takeaway, Viren. Thank you for sharing those. Yeah.
Great.
So thank you very much of joining us and sharing such practical lessons from this mega program, Viren, from failure to successes to turnaround. You have given our listener actionable strategies to tackle these massive initiative with confidence. Thank you, Viren. Thank you to joining us today.
Sure. Thank you, Kailash, for giving me an opportunity to be on this platform and to share my views. And I really wish that your audience at least takes away some of the points from our discussion and implements them. I'll be more than happy to hear anyone's view, questions, or maybe a success story based on this podcast. And that will be great actually for me. Okay.
I'm sure, Viren, that the audience will. There are a lot of takeaways. There are a lot of pointers which you have shared. Why mega program fails, or what are the key metric to for success of this mega program, and how to turn around the failing mega program program into a success stories. And these are the great knowledge sharing. Thank you once again, for our listener. Thank you for tuning into the P3M with Kailash Upadhyay. And if you have enjoyed this today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with the community, and join us next time as we continue to explore strategies for driving success in project, program, and portfolio management. Until then, stay focused and keep driving and keep delivering value. Thank you very much, everyone.